What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the One Show. It's your boy Bobby,
and it's your boy Mo. You kind of reversed it, but at least it still rhymes.
I know.
It still rhymes.
We're still testing. Yeah.
No, we're not. That's an excuse, people. Anyway, so what is popping? Today's topic.
What is popping? Well, 2019, people are being offended left, right, and center.
The sensitivity.
So let's talk about the things that people are sensitive about. Things that just happened in the last week or so. Let's talk about this Betsy Ross flag shoe.
The Betsy Ross one is not really. That's not the actual name. I'm just saying it.
The Air Betsy Ross.
I'm just saying that. Yeah. So Nike premiered, or they actually put into distribution, a pair of $120 shoes, and there is a reason why I stated the price here. A pair of $120 shoes, with the iconic first flag of the U.S. on the back of it. Now, the issue that popped up with that is people want to use that flag as a scapegoat to say that the reason why they don't want the flag on the shoe is because it represents a slavery-driven history that America is notorious for. Now, before I let Bobby go ahead, because I know he got something in the chamber for this, I'll go ahead and say that I'm sure it's a shared thought as well, that the flag does not represent slavery. The flag represents the flag. It represents the states that existed at the time that the flag was created and the colonies therein. Now, the problem that I feel like people have, and it's pretty obvious, is that at the time that this flag was created, slavery had not yet been abolished. Matter of fact, it probably just about was in the helms of starting or in effect at that point. And it touches the sensitivity bone of a lot of people. But again, what they fail to realize is this flag itself does not represent slavery. It's not the Confederate flag, which directly represents a need to maintain ideals as it relates to slavery and slave ownership. It's really just about the birthing of what we consider the United States now. That's the beginning of it all. And I honestly don't see anything wrong with the shoe. I don't feel any kind of...
Well, I guess, like, as a person of the African American community... Well, first of all, it's like... I always question these things. Is like, when there's a huge outrage, it makes me wonder, were you offended before this was like commercialized,
right?
Or is it because it's being commercialized now you're offended? Because I always wonder if you had like a feeling towards a certain something before it became popular, because then it makes you think like, well, how authentic is this outrage?
Right. Yeah, a lot of people. A lot of people like to be, piggybacking on the sensitivity. A lot of people like to be sensitive when it's convenient. That's definitely a truer statement I've not heard. But even so, as it came around, probably 2018, maybe like at the end of 2017, all of 2018, now 2019, like people have been getting way more sensitive with way more trivial things. You're upset about a flag that's not a Confederate flag.
Right. Also, I want to just point, we're going two different things that people are offended about here. So we're just talking about the first one.
Right. You're going two different, you're going to be offended by a flag that does not represent slavery and is not a direct representation of slavery. And I'm sure that's not the intent that they wanted to make when they put this shoe out.
Yeah, I don't think that's up to brand par, where it's like Nike, we approve slavery.
Right. I'm sure if this shoe was made 10 years ago, people wouldn't be offended then. It's a thing now. Everybody wants to be more woke and more aware and more culturally sensitive. Everyone wants to be And it's less so on the cultural or the woke part. It's really more so like there's a focus as sensitive being the operative word. Everybody just wants to be sensitive about something and then hide it in the guise of passion. Like, oh, I'm passionate about, like, you're not passionate about shit. You're just piggybacking. You want to be sensitive. You want to feel like you're included in something because you have a voice and you want it to be heard for whatever the reason. Sometimes your voice doesn't need to be heard. Sometimes it's irrelevant for your voice to be heard because it may not be something that is that warranting of your passion. Right. Especially in a situation like this. Like, I don't need to say shit about this. It's pretty obvious why they made the shoe, and it has nothing to do with slavery. What the hell am I feeling? And then there was a comment that I read in the article that I read. I'm sure there are multiple articles about this, but in this particular article I read, there's a quote from some parent. It's like, I don't want my children to be reminded about slavery every time they go to school. It's like, well, I mean, do you think your kids are being reminded of slavery when they see this shoe? When they see that shoe, they're thinking about, oh, this shit fly. Like, this shit is racks right now. Niggas is popping out here in these streets. Your kids not thinking about no fucking slavery.
Unless they were in geography class, wow. Social studies.
Right.
I haven't been at school in a minute. Unless they've been in social studies and know about the flag, and at the same time, it's like when we learn about this flag, we don't say, history, "Oh, this is a flag." History, social studies, history.
Nah, difference. Go on.
Shut up. It's when you learn about this, they don't. Yeah, again, it happened during the time of slavery. I get that, but the flag is not the derived of. This is what slavery stands for, right. Or the representative of slavery.
Right. I don't think they made this flag. It's like, oh yeah, let's mark the moment when we start getting slaves to work for it. Like, that's not a thing.
Yeah. Also, that comment I feel is very, lack of a better word, stupid. Because, like you said, I don't think that's the one thing in their mind where it's like, oh yeah, this is what this reminds me of slavery. Also, you know what reminds me of slavery? The water fountains at school. They remind me of slavery.
Right.
It's like, what reminds me of slavery?
History. Let's just get rid of that as a course altogether.
We need to get rid of history. It's like, no. We need to learn history so we don't repeat mistakes in history.
Or so we're better equipped to not repeat it, because chances are people still repeat it anyway.
Right. People still want to go back to the good old days. But like with the Betsy Ross flag is literally what we call the first American flag, because it's
not what we call it. It is the first American. It is the first American flag.
It is the first American flag.
When it was propositioned, it was the first flag that was propositioned to be made. That's the first flag. Over time, obviously, it wasn't practical because more states got added, but that was the original flag.
It's legit history embedded in the flag. So it's like, and again, I make the comparison to the Confederate flag, where it's like that I understand,
because that flag was made specifically for that purpose. It was a confederate of states that did not want to abolish slavery. They wanted to maintain their ability to own and utilize slaves. That flag was made to represent that purpose. That's why the whole war existed to begin with. So that's that. If they put that on a shoe, which they wouldn't, because they're not stupid. If they put that on the shoe, then I understand people being outraged, but they would never do that because that's illiterate. So chances are, if you see a shoe like that, it's probably like custom made from an individual and not Nike. So let's not start digging for those now. Like, oh no, they probably did make that. Like, nah, Nike never did that.
So yeah, it's just mind-boggling to me, and the fact that even Colin Kaepernick even made commented on it, and that's what kind of like halted Nike from like going further with it, where it's kind of like,
you said Colin Kaepernick had something to say about it?
Yeah, he's the one that he said it's not a good look. Basically, it wasn't like, oh, stop this or else. It was just basically like, yeah.
But it's crazy, they pushed his shoe despite the fact that he was representing something very direct, and they're not. In making this shoe, they weren't pushing anything direct. I don't even know why he felt like that was necessary to say. Like, that's not even. I wouldn't care. I'd be like, keep making the shoe, bro. Like, fuck it.
Right. Do you think
the only thing they have succeeded in doing by taking the shoe off the market is increase the price of the shoe? Now, the reason why I said earlier that I mentioned the pricing of the shoe retailed initially at $120, which, considering how much, and we're not even going to dive into the specifics of how little these shoes cost to make, it's still a fairly cheap shoe. Considering Nike standards for shoes nowadays and how much they retail at initially, that's cheap as hell for a shoe. And now the shoe is worth $4,000 upwards. So they haven't succeeded in taking it away from anything. They just made it easier for resellers to capitalize on it. So you're not taking this out of any kind of circle. It's not missing. It's still there. It
goes to the concept where it's like the more you try to banish shit, the more shit gets popular.
Right. And you know, and your kids, the same ones you say they don't want to be reminded of slavery when they go to school, they're the ones that are buying the shit or capitalizing on this resale. They're the ones at the front of the lines trying to get this shit so they can resell it. Like, they're not fazed by any of this shit. They don't think anything less than, oh, this is fire, this is for the culture, I'm getting it. That's all kids think nowadays. The parents feel like kids are thinking on some kind of like super advanced level. At the end of the day, no matter how intelligent or well versed in certain things a kid is, they're still gonna be kids. And especially where they're from, especially New York, like, it's all about the hype. Like, nobody's thinking about slavery. They're thinking about, this shit is fire. This shit's
thinking about this money.
Right. This shit's for the culture. That's exactly what they're thinking about. They're not thinking about no fucking slavery. Especially since it's not a direct statement to slavery. So they're not gonna dive further than what the shoe represents just to think, oh, nah, this shit not right because this shit about slavery. They're not thinking about that shit. All they see is a fucking American flag. And now they're not seeing it, so it's even more popular.
Right. Now, don't get it twisted. Anybody who is on the other side of the fence, but, like, share the sentiments with the, like, oh, it's the same thing with the Confederate flag. Like, no, there's two different fucking things.
Two different flags. The Confederate flag directly represents the need to own slaves. It's all about slavery. There's nothing non-slavery about the Confederate flag.
Right, one flag actually won the Civil War.
Well, the flags didn't do it, but the representation, right. The ones who represented the so-called slave flag took over the other ones. So
doing the actual slavery.
So let's use that for history if you want to get technical with it. But what was that's pretty much all I have to say about it. It's pretty much a cut and dry case. Like, people stop being fucking sensitive. Not everything needs your voice. Like, stop. It's unnecessary. Your voice does not need to be heard all the time. Sometimes it's irrelevant. I understand, like, the sentiment of people who feel like their opinions should matter, but your opinions don't matter if they're not justified. Let me say it like that. And especially, and this is evidence of what I'm talking about. I don't need any other evidential situations. That's not a word, I don't think. Besides this one, that's all the evidence. So good. Right, that's all the evidence you need. And that's what I have to say about that.
From shoes to Disney, that's not a good segue, but I'm sticking with it.
same so-called white prejudice. So let's hear it.
Right, like, on the opposite side of...
And this has been in circulation, so I know about this one. Even though I didn't see it, I know about this one.
Little Mermaid will be black in Disney's new real-life adaptation of The Little Mermaid.
Real-life adaptation?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, this is not...
This is not a cartoon. Okay, they show cartoon images from what I was looking at.
Because they're comparing white Ariel to black Ariel.
Well, black Ariel is just gonna be black with a weave on. I don't know if they're gonna make like I don't think they're gonna make like a African mermaid. You know what I mean? Like natural everything. If they do, then it's like, all right, you may be trying to pander too much, but I'm pretty sure that's not gonna be the case. because the hair don't really work too well.
I just saw
with
a
water.
headline that says cultural appropriation ? I'm like, it's a fucking cartoon.
Well, it's gonna be translated to live action, so this is it's gonna be interesting to see how they translate it. If it's a black chick with weave, then it's like,
first of all,
okay,
before we get
it
into
doesn't
it,
matter. Huh?
So this sparks a big outrage on Twitter, on everywhere. There was even a hashtag, I think, not my Ariel or something.
Right.
I'm trying to like, not my Ariel. Yeah, not my Ariel.
Right.
The Little Mermaid.
The argument, I was gonna say the argument. Even Long Beach Griffey had something to say about this, and I had to really like look at it because he's not known to be on any side of anything really.
Right, he's just living.
He just roasts everything. It doesn't matter. Like there's no sides. It's just
that's just true. Doesn't matter who you are.
Yeah, it's all indifference. But he had a relatively different approach to this, where he was literally what the argument was, or what the argument is as it relates to Ariel, is white people now, back in the days when it was all about, actually blaxploitation was different. It was really like exploiting like black culture for entertainment. Now it's like trying to incorporate blacks into like white cultural things. So now they're feeling like because Ariel is black, they're trying to pander to African American audiences in light of the success of other movies. But what they fail to realize is if it's a black Ariel with a weave-in or a sew-in, whatever the fuck these kids are wearing nowadays, if it's one of those, it's pretty much just gonna be a regular Disney movie. It's not the first time there's been a black character in a musical Disney movie. It's happened before. But I think the argument that they have is what I just mentioned, is that they're using it as an attempt to pander to black audiences, saying, oh no, we can be cultured too, let's change everybody to black, because why not? They probably had a similar argument with Spider-Man, if not for the fact that Morales was already a character that existed before. But I think it's in along those same lines where they're like, you're just trying to pander to black audiences now. Like, not everything has to be black. You can keep it original. And I understand that, definitely. But I think if the character is going to be a typical American black chick, it's not going to be very much different from what the original Ariel,
like the race of the mermaid.
Yeah, it's not going to be any different.
First of all,
I don't think her race is going to be highlighted. I don't think Atlantic is going to be represented as an African like underwater society. I'm still pretty sure everything is going to be fairly white, unless they change the whole thing to black. Then it's like, okay, this is not what we're accustomed to seeing at all.
Right. This wasn't in the movie.
Right. But if it's just a character that's black, and she probably is going to sing just as white as Ariel did when she came out.
If she's going to be black, obviously there has to be a black community of mermaids, right?
Why?
Because that wouldn't make too much sense if it was just one black mermaid and then all white mermaids.
I don't think the community is going to be completely black, though.
No, not completely.
It may be
black,
a mixed community.
It's got to be a mixed
she might
community.
have a black mom, but I think.
Side note: people want Terry Crews to be, fucking the King Atlantis. Yeah.
Just because.
Yeah.
If they do that, then it's complete appropriation, because then the whole culture is gonna be black.
Why you say that?
Because all her siblings are gonna have to be black. There's no way you're gonna have a black dad with white kids. So if they made the dad black, then the whole culture is gonna end up being black, because the real focus on the movie is that family. So it doesn't matter what the other Atlanteans look like. You're gonna still be focusing on Little Mermaid and her family. So it's just like one of them situations where if you do change that, then it's gonna be really black appropriation, because like everybody's gonna be black. Might as well make and granted, the argument with Atlantis was that it's supposed to have been a continent that existed next to Africa or very close to Africa. So the argument that it could be black is still out there. But it's like initially the Little Mermaid was not a black society. You know what I mean? Like it was a white society. So like completely changing it from one to the other, it's not on the fence situation here. Like I'm not saying, oh, if they make it black, then white people win, or if they make it white, then white people win, or if they make it black, then they're pandering. It has to be something. And at this point, they've already gone so far into it, they can't change them now, because then they're gonna be like, oh, you're racist now, because
right, the backlash is gonna be so it's like
equally,
if not more,
right. So
you go back.
At this point, you may as well accept
Disney has
I'm
pretty sure Disney has no plans of going back on this. Like,
I mean, they've had
controversy.
They've had done things for the population before, so it's not. It doesn't go beyond it. But the point is, they know. I'm pretty sure they're aware. They have people in their Shark Tank who are, or I wouldn't say Shark Tank, but they have people in their like idea factory, like their think tank, that are gonna think about this. Like, oh, if we go back on this, the backlash is gonna be worse. So you may as well just continue production and not even think about anything and hope for the best when it's released, and know that it having Disney on a stamp as a stamp of approval means that it's gonna generate enough sales regardless. My thoughts about it are more so that, do we need more remakes? Like, is that really what we need to strive for? Like, are remakes what we really need?
We don't need them, but Disney, Disney's like, well, we can just make money off our old shit just by remaking them. So
right, that's what I mean. It's essentially what they're doing now, but they can make money regardless.
I mean, did you see the Mulan trailer? They have Mulan.
No, I've not seen any of this shit, man. Not one of these things have I paid attention to. I've seen a clip of Aladdin, but that's about it. Like, I'm not.
Right.
I don't know
Aladdin,
how I feel about
Mermaid.
and Aladdin is another thing too, because granted, Aladdin was always like a red flag, because the original genie was white, or at least had a white personality, because he was Robin Williams. Shout out to Robin Williams, R.I.P. and all that good stuff. No offense to him.
What? There was a controversy for Robin Williams?
But what I'm saying is, it was always like back and forth as it relates to even Aladdin and stuff, because they're in some kind of Middle Eastern country, but the genie's white. So.
Oh, well, the thing is, here's the thing. No one gave a shit.
That's what I'm saying. That's the point we're trying to make right now, is that no one cared back then. But not what I'm feeling like now. They're gonna make this all these arguments about appropriation and whatnot. How are they not mad that Will Smith is gonna be the genie, even though he's blue, he's still black? So it's like, what are you really trying to argue about here? Because where you're arguing about in one area is failing in another area. You gotta stick this out if you're really gonna do it. Like, argue about everything. But the point is that none of this needs to be thought about like that. Just accept it for what it is. Like, you trying to make. My thing is, if they do try to change Atlantis to a whole different society, then it's like, what the fuck is this? You know what I mean? Like.
No, well, the thing is, I don't think by changing King Tritus, I'm pretty sure that's his name, right? King Tritus, whatever.
King Triton.
King Triton. To black, I don't think that's gonna also dramatically change the landscape of the mermaids and whatnot. But
it's not gonna be as much focus on the society as there is on that family. If you make the dad black, all his kids are gonna have to be black. You're not going to have a black dad or white kids unless they're adopted. And it was never stated that Triton was not out here slanging this dick. So he was very much getting all these kids on his own.
What I'm saying is, if Terry Crews becomes Triton, I'm okay with that. I love Terry Crews.
I don't care either way. What I'm just saying is, I understand that I would feel like you would feel okay if it's just a change in him. But if the whole structure of Atlantis changed because of them, would you not say you wouldn't feel away, because there's nothing to feel away really about, but does it not seem strange to you compared to, like, as a contrast to what the Little Mermaid originally was? And then who's gonna be the guy that is smitten with her? Is any of that gonna change, or is he still gonna be a white dude?
That's a very interesting question. I think you should make racists mad and still have a white guy and then date a black girl, have Black Mermaid.
Because what was he? Is he a sailor, right?
Yeah. It was just a white sailor. It'd be interesting. That actually is very interesting to think about. Like, I wonder what Is it gonna be like
because there's her being different. I feel like there's gonna be like a change with a lot of the concepts within the movie itself. I don't think the change is just gonna be her,
just to show that biracial.
Right. I mean,
I think that'd be great.
I mean, again, I'm not opposed to the idea because at the end of the day, she's not going to. I would hope that the entire culture doesn't change, and if it doesn't, she's gonna be a typical representation of what a black girl in America looks like. So it's not like it's inexcusable. It's not like she's gonna be like this African, like princess. She's gonna be black, American black. So everything that comes with that. So it's gonna be a black skin, representing a white way of singing or a very like Disney way of singing. It's not gonna be like a Lion King where everything was like tribal. It's still gonna be pretty white culture in how she's portrayed. I think that's probably what a lot of people have a problem with is that it's going to be a black mermaid like appropriating white culture. I think that's a lot of issues. There's probably some, I don't know exactly because I don't, but I think that's some of the issue what people are going to have is like, oh, you're going to make her black, but she's still going to be doing white shit. So why does just keep her white? You know what I mean? As in the singing, because we don't know how a fish with a human body lives, but at the end of the day, I'm saying is like, but there's definitely a distinct difference between a white way of musicals and a black way of musicals. Mm-hmm. It's indisputable that there's a different way of how we translate how our musicals should be. And Little Mermaid, all that upbeat, prissy, I want to be human, all that. I mean, all that seems to me like as at least being spoiled on what the original Mermaid looked like and being from New York and seeing Broadway shows and whatnot. There's a distinct difference between a Lion King and anything else that's like non-tribal. It's a distinct difference. There's no comparison in the way the musicals are handled. Like, they are upbeat, sure, but what I'm referring to in the type of upbeat that it is, it's more tribal upbeat as opposed to like fanciful, like a typical white or white dominated musical is more fanciful in nature, whereas like a black musical is more like focused in realistic situations and tribalism. It's not so much the same, and you'd have to experience it to understand what I'm getting at, but what I'm talking about, I would imagine, at least, Bobby.
I kind of know what you're talking about. I just think at the end of the day it's a fucking cartoon.
It's not a cartoon.
Well, yeah, the product they're gonna make is not a cartoon, but I'm saying like everyone is so angered by the white cartoon character is now going to be black in real life.
I think for a lot of people, I think it transcends just the color change. I think it's a thought behind it. Like, what is she gonna be like? Is she just gonna be black, or is she gonna be like?
Well, that's the thing.
A freaking tribal princess. Like, what is she gonna?
She's just gonna be black, and everything else is gonna be the same.
And then there's going to be those on that fence too, where it's like, okay, she's going to be black, but she's going to act like white people. Just keep her white then. You know what I mean? Like, I think...
What do you mean act like white people? She's going to act like the Little Mermaid.
Which was white. All her mannerisms were white. Her singing pattern was white. Her voice, very much
obviously
white.
There will be like some type of little changes and whatnot, but it's still going to be the Little Mermaid.
And if it is who I think it is, I've heard her singing, and her voice is definitely... Like, at least her singing voice, her Disney voice is definitely white. For sure. But what I'm saying...
That's why it just matches.
Huh? But what I'm saying, but like, people... Like, the people looking at it as like seeing a black girl on, in a traditionally like all like white cast is like looking at it and they're expecting to see some kind of mannerisms that are pronounced that are not so much so. Granted, the trailer hasn't even... Has the trailer even come out?
No, of course not. It was just the cast.
Right, the cast list. Okay, so let's just, at least for me, like thinking what people are probably processing in their heads as this is going down, because these are thoughts that just popped up in my head. I can only imagine that people have thought about these things too. So I think getting outraged about it is illogical. Definitely, it does raise questions, sure, and questions should always be asked. Like, you know, there should always be the why. But the outrage behind it, I don't think is very logical. I think it's better off to wait to see at least what the trailer is like, to have a better understanding of the direction they're trying to push with this.
That's all I'm saying. Is like there's so big outrage with this. You know, first of all, the movie itself could just be crap. I don't think it's going.
I don't think it's going to be. They're putting too much.
People are going to see the movie regardless.
Yeah, they're putting too
much. Whether they like it, they hate it. They want Ariel to be white. They want Ariel to be black.
There's going to be too much CG for this movie to be crap. They're putting too much behind that.
But it's like,
and there's a lot of people that are going to see just for the curiosity as well.
Right, but you know, it's Disney. Is Disney owned? They're doing it with their own stuff, so it's not like they bought something that was originally white and then made it black. You know, they said, "Hey, this is our own intellectual property. This is the way."
They could have bought that IP. I don't think Disney owns a lot of the IP that like they push out. I think they just buy the rights from other people.
They
came out with that. Like that was an original. Like someone within the Disney camp wrote that.
Sure.
Because there's a lot of things that are within the Disney camp that were not written by Disney.
Well, yeah, you know, Lion King being one of them.
Right. So there's a few things you may be surprised how much it was just acquired.
You know, maybe I am, and maybe there is. But as far as I know, it's an original Disney movie. And so people are getting mad as like, how dare you change the thing that?
Wait, hold on. I'm gonna let you continue. But speaking of this Mulan trailer, is Mulan white?
No, Mulan is Asian.
Okay, go on.
You see, that would have been a bigger outcry.
So this is what I'm saying. Like, if you're gonna make, you know, if you're gonna do, because they've done this before. It's not the first time they've done this. They use like American characters for Asian roles, and a lot of times they do. A lot of mixing.
Obviously,
Tonto was white.
But the thing is, Mulan is Asian ethnic story driven. Like, being Asian is the story.
Right.
Whereas being a mermaid is not white, is not black.
But
the
culture she went to was a white culture as well.
You can argue that, but it's like, that's such a slight change that you can do. That, you know, it's so secondary. Not even second. It's third or fourth in the story. You know what I'm trying to say?
Right.
That has nothing to do with the main plot. And Mulan, being Asian in the Asian country, that is tied together with the main plot.
Right.
So that's why it's like, I don't understand why is this such a big deal to people when the main story is just mermaid meets human.
Because you know, I think the thing is, it's like they're pushing this as the same movie but with real characters, right? So people are not thinking there should be a reimagining, and that's kind of the realm that is diving into when you change the original cast to anything that wasn't the original. I mean, not obviously the same
obviously
people.
The original cast is not going to be
probably dead at this point. But I'm talking about like, I'm talking, well, not dead, but fairly old. But I'm talking about, you know, the original cast type. You know, the archetype for what the original cast was. If you're making this as a remake and not so much a reimagining, you should, you know, there's a thing where people expect that you follow along those same lines. You know, you don't just, you know, switch everything or whatever it is that you feel like switching just because. Like, there should be like that, you know, the line that you follow along because you're doing this. Otherwise, make a new IP, you know what I mean? But if you're following along a previous IP in any way, shape, or form, like, there's an expectation for, at least to some degree, of what the original characters like portrayed before. You know what I mean? Like, if they made Aladdin white, it would be a problem, right? Like, you would feel like, okay, what the fuck is going on here? I think the real issue that a lot of people fail to realize, that you mentioned before, is that Atlantis itself was not dictated to be any kind of society. It was just a society. So it could be any type of person. Like if Atlantis was depicted to be a white society, then it'd be like, okay, then why not have everyone white? There was no black people here. Like, what's going on? But I think the problem that a lot of people have is just the idea of them pandering, because they realize the success of trying to incorporate black people into movies and not just movies in general, but movies that were, you know, specifically created for other types of cultures, just to get, you know, that black, you know, vote of approval. Like, okay, thank you for doing that.
Get in the back,
right?
Which to me, I don't.
But the real issue that we have, I think we have as black people, is that we're not given roles that are, you know, typical for like a typical American. You know what I mean? Like, we're always perceived in a certain way. You know, we're perceived as thugs and all that. And in reality, granted, we don't. There are some black people who exist in white societies and they act that way, but we're just trying to achieve some kind of normalcy. You know, we just want to be seen as a normal person in society, and not just a thug or a criminal mouse or whatever the situation is. I think that's the issue we have. I don't think we want it to be seen as you know, a new Little Mermaid. I don't think that's what we wanted. You know, I think that's what a lot of people have problems with. It's like, okay, now you're pushing us way past what we wanted to be seen as. We just want to be seen as normal people. You don't have to use us as the headline.
You're a fucking mermaid.
You don't have to use us to headline all your classics in all your movies now, because you realize that we you know, we are behind the culture in that department.
That's a fair point.
I think that's really what it is. Is like, for some people at least, I'm sure different people have the different reasons, but I think how I'm seeing it, I'm trying to like point out all the possible like reasoning behind this. I think that we're just saying we don't need to be headlining in what we know was not something we were headlining in before. We just need a proper representation in American society, or just society in general, not being seen in all the way negative light all the time. I think this is what like the goal is for us. And I think the issue that a lot of people have is that, okay, we didn't need to be Ariel. We could have just been a citizen in Atlantis. We didn't have to be Ariel. Like, we don't.
The protagonist of a regular movie.
We don't need to be that. We just want to be represented in a regular light. You know what I mean? Like, we don't want to be pushed to the side or pushed to the back because we're viewed negatively. That is not what we're looking for. We're just looking for like regular representation. And I think them pushing it, granted, I'm not upset. Kudos to whoever the main actress is. I am happy for your success, because you will indeed be met with a lot of success, because you have the Disney stamp of approval behind you. But I do understand where people are coming from, is that like, yeah, she could have had a strong voice in the movie without being Ariel either way.
Halle Bailey.
Right. I think people are saying like she could have had a strong voice without being Ariel anyway. There's a lot of supporting characters in movies, and she could have still had a very, very powerful voice without being seen as look at I mean, granted, that movie was about black women, but look at like Golden, what is it? The movie with Beyonce? I forget. You know the movie I'm talking about? Where she was in a trio group of singers from back in the day. I forget.
Trio group of singers back in the day.
Golden Super something girls.
Trio?
I forget the name. But when Beyonce was seen as the star, but Kate Thing Hudson, damn it. Just all these blanks, but
all the blanks.
Jennifer Hudson really took the spotlight. It's kind of like that. She wasn't a main character, she was a support, but she still took the spotlight. So it's one of those situations where, I mean, people are just seeing it like you didn't have to push her at the forefront of the movie. She could have still had a voice without being Ariel. Like, we expected Ariel to be a certain person, and to try to appropriate for us now, you're trying to change all the roles. Like, even so much. Like, you notice them doing it. I think that's what people are getting annoyed about. Like, in a lot of movies, like, they're giving, like, black people main character roles that didn't originally have main character roles
because I guess again they're thinking that they're trying to pander instead of just giving them a regular role that we can work with. Look at Mary Jane in the new Spider-Man movie. Mary Jane was never black.
Isn't it depending on universe?
I don't think Mary Jane was ever black. Spider-Man was black, but I don't think Mary Jane was ever black. So it's one of those situations where it's like, okay, we get it, cool. We like what you're doing here in giving us, proper, screen time, but we just need to be represented as not thugs. Like, that's it. You start with that. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, we're still being seen as thugs in movies that we are headlining in. Look at Black Panther. Like, most of Black Panther was great for what it was, sure, a big nod to the culture, but look at what he was fighting against.
Yeah, Mary Jane was never black.
Huh?
I say, yeah, Mary Jane was never black, apparently.
So there,
just making sure.
Right. So
there's too many universes out there.
Right. I mean, granted, she is half white. I guess half of something that's light skin. But anyway, point I'm trying to make here is like, look at even Black Panther. What was he fighting against when he came here?
When the people
inner city culture. Culture. He was
fighting. I was
against,
he was fighting against the person that took his throne.
But more so as it relates to here, he was fighting against inner city culture and giving us the facilities to be progressive in society. That's really what he was fighting against, because that was the whole reason they were arming the blacks in the inner cities from Wakanda anyway, was because they wanted them to overthrow the white society. So it's like, even the concept of that movie, people are not realizing, like, we don't need to be headlining everything. We just need to not be viewed in a certain way, because as much as there are people in the inner city, there are people who don't think like that. There are people who don't act like that, and that's not the view that people should have of us, and that's why we don't want to be perceived like that in movies. Because look at anywhere, like anyone from anywhere else that comes here and has a problem with black people, their reasoning as to why they have a problem with us, not knowing us from anywhere, is what they see in the media and how we are portrayed. People are not going to think any differently of our culture if the Little Mermaid is black, because that movie is not real. It's not based on anything realistic.
Yeah, I guess. At the end of the day, that's why I'm
right.
Like,
so it's like
everyone just needs to chill. So from that, the Betsy Ross thing, the Little Mermaid thing, doesn't matter what political affiliation you were.
The Betsy
with,
Ross thing was just stupid as hell. That was just dumb.
It's like everyone just needs to take a chill pill,
especially on the Betsy Ross shoot, man. Like, come on, son. Like, you just want to be mad at Nike for being successful, and you just need to find any single way to point fingers at them, because apparently everything else wasn't working.
Right. Well,
how about trying to highlight something that's really a problem that I think a lot of people still...
Basically, it's like, why?
It's like, how about the sweatshops? How about we target that? Like, how about we target, like, super inexpensive labor, as opposed to what the fuck is on the shoe? How about we target who's making the shoe? Like what are these shoe factories looking like? Are they all mechanics? Are they all machines? Or are there like actually people in the background making these shoes that are not well appreciated financially? Like, how about we look at that as opposed to anything else?
All right. But with that, we're going to cut it here. Thank you everybody for watching. Please, if you liked what you heard or saw, even though we're not doing much, like and comment. Tell us what you like. If you don't,
fuck you mean we're not doing much? We're talking about real shit for real people.
Real shit. Real people.
We're real opinions. Fuck you mean? We are doing something.
Fuck. Okay, we are doing. If you like it, give it a thumbs up and comment. If you don't like it, give it a dislike and comment. Tell us why you don't like it, or tell us what you did.
If I look like I'm being filmed from a potato, it's Skype. Next, basically. Go on.
But until next time, it's your boy Bobby,
and it's your boy Mo.
And the real ones signing out.